Thank you. Well, let's get going. Anyone who's coming in late will figure out what we're doing. So first, I'm happy to introduce Alan, but first excuse me, good morning all. Like to let you know who I am. My name is Lisa Swallow. I am the co-founder and executive director of Crossing Party Lines, which is a national nonprofit that brings people together to talk across differences with the goal of reducing toxic polarization and learning to collaboratively solve the problems that our country faces today. And I am so excited to introduce Alan. Alan is a master listener, which those of you who attend Crossing Party Lines will know is near and dear to my heart, because here at Crossing Party Lines, we like to encourage people to listen with an open mind, to be curious about what others have to say. And Alan has taken, well, and Diane too, they've taken listening to a new level. And Alan's going to introduce us to the QuantumThink system of thinking about the world. He'll explain it much better than I do. So welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Lisa. It's just a pleasure to have been working with you to set this up. So I just want to acknowledge you. And also, Bob, without you, we wouldn't even be doing this. So thanks for all the work that you've done to make this possible. And also our Peace, Harmony, and Joy team, that is, who have supported the background of this in many different ways. And so, and this is basically why we're here. I am on the executive board of the Peace, Harmony, and Joy Alliance, as well as being in partnership with Diane, who you see up there. Diane is the creator of QuantumThink. I'll speak more about that in a moment. And I'm the person that leads our programs corporately and around the world to individuals and entrepreneurs, and have been doing so for many, many years. And we've trained thousands of people in major corporations for that have enjoyed QuantumThink and have transformed their relationships through the thinking that I'm going to introduce you to today. That's a very small aspect of QuantumThink. And I also want to acknowledge Scott Frank and Yossi Lerman. They are the founders of the Peace, Harmony, and Joy Alliance, and also their co-authors in the book Less Stress, More Joy. And in that book, they reference a lot of the QuantumThink principles in relationship, actually, to being able to see how it's improved their lives personally, their personal relationships, through applying these QuantumThink distinctions. So let me explain to you how this is going to go. But before I do, I want to ask you to do something, because this is going to be a real-time thing. Understand that you're not going to understand QuantumThink in the short period of time that I'm going to present it to you. Now, I've been doing it 15 years, and I don't understand it. So you don't have a shot in 10 minutes. So the key part here is for you to have an experience, because if you have an experience, that's going to last you a lifetime. Understanding was nice, but it's not that useful. But an experience is very, very useful. So we're going to go into that. So I want to set us up here a little bit. I want you to be, what I'm doing today, I actually have never done before. So I'm in new territory, so are you. So we're all in this together. And even though I'll be talking a little bit in the beginning, listening is very, very important. Listening can exist without talking, but talking cannot exist without listening. So you are playing an extremely active role in this. Without you, there's nothing. So you're participating fully. And so to set you up a little bit to start with here, what I'd like for you to do is to think of somebody you care deeply about, somebody that you're familiar with, somebody you talk to on a regular basis. It could be a family member, a child, a spouse, a brother or sister, a colleague you work with, whoever, but somebody you're very familiar with, and that you also have a thought about this person that they don't listen. So if you just take a moment, and if you've got somebody, you can go to the chat and say, yes, I got somebody like that in my life that I don't think listens as well as they should be listening. And so just go in and you can give us a yes in the chat so that we know you're engaged with us here. And so all I want you to do is put the name of that person down for now. It could be a couple of people, because we're going to do a little exercise later. And the bold ones of you who take this on are going to actually have a transformation in those relationships. So I invite you. It's not going to be hard. There's nothing you have to do that's going to be uncomfortable. Okay. But we are going to do that. So anyway, so that's what I'd like you to do to get started. And take a moment. Do you all have, just raise a hand, actually. I'm not going to go into the chat. Just raise a hand if you've got somebody. 100%. Excellent. Very good. Okay, so we're all in the game together here. Okay, so let me just talk to you a little bit. Well, let me just introduce Diane. Diane is here. Diane is the creator of QuantumThink. Diane is rather unique. I'm going to acknowledge her here. She has the ability to think and see in whole systems. Now, that may mean something to some of you and not to others, but it is quite rare. And because of that, Diane actually is able to see what works and what doesn't work in very, very interesting ways and in very complex situations. And, you know, that plays out for me a lot when we go out to eat, because she's not nonstop in that area. And so, Diane, welcome. And Diane has offered to help us today, and she's managing the chat. If you have questions or anything, any comments you want to make, you can go into the chat. There will be a chance later to be able to engage. So this is kind of like how it's going to go. I'm going to speak for about 10 minutes to give you a primer of QuantumThink, you know, some of the key aspects of it that are relevant to what we are planning on doing today, which is in the arena of listening. And so I'm going to do, so that's the first thing. So I'm going to take that first, and then that'll take 10 minutes or so. And then Lisa and now Lisa, I only know Lisa for a very short period. And we've talked maybe 2 or 3 times. We definitely have connected on, you know, certainly in the level of the work that we do, and also in the spirit of the work that we do. So we definitely have a very strong connection along those lines. So I said to Lisa, why don't we do an interview? Why don't you ask me about QuantumThink? Because she has been listening to our audio coach program. So she's gotten a real good sense of things. And that's another way. So in the conversation, a lot of things will come out in the conversation that will be very different than if I did a presentation. And so we're going to have that conversation. That conversation will last maybe 20 minutes. And then I'm going to set up this little exercise for you to do. That'll take about 5 to 7 minutes for you to do. And then you're gonna, you know, we'll take that break. It'll be a 7-minute break. Then you'll come back after that, and then you'll share what happened when you did that exercise. And then also you can ask us any questions you want. Any questions you want to ask of me, I'm here to answer. So that's kind of like how it's going to go, and that's what we're going to spend our time with today. So a little bit now on. So is everybody okay with that? Good.
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay, excellent. So now let me just talk a little bit about QuantumThink. QuantumThink is a system of thinking. Now that may be saying strange, because there isn't, as far as I know, and I've been doing this for a long time, I don't know another system of thinking. It's a whole system. And not only is it a system, it's a system that's made up of 21 distinctions in thinking. That's what we call them. We can refer to them as principles, but they're actually more accurately said as distinctions. And the interesting thing about this is that although there are 21 distinctions that make up the system, it is created, and this is where Diane's brilliance comes in, they are holographic, which is an unusual way of looking at it. It's a holographic system. That means that the entire system is in existence in all of the distinctions. The whole system is in each of the distinctions, yet each distinction is unique in and of itself. And that's rather unusual. So as people learn to quantum think, and they see that these are what we call quantum occurrences that take place, the unexpected things that go on in their life, that are pleasurable and beneficial, when they see them, if they start to take a good look, they can actually distinguish any of the distinctions playing out in that occurrence. And the occurrence is always nonlinear. So it's not like, I did this and I got that. It's not going to be that. It's going to happen in your thinking. And this is important. So let me speak a little bit about QuantumThink. The QuantumThink system, even though it's got 3 distinctions, we're going to address 3 of them today. And I want to give you a sort of the overarching distinction, which we call old worldview, new worldview. Now, the idea of QuantumThink is it was created from the wisdom of ancient masters and where that connects to quantum physicists. Now, this is really important, okay? This is where they have now come together. These masters that we have learned about from Buddha on and Muhammad and Jesus and Moses and all of them, that they all have a common base. One thing that they all say is that thought creates reality. Now, first off, let me do a check. I need to see how many of you resonate with the idea that thought creates reality. Okay, most of you do. Okay. Now the big question that Diane asked herself as she was going through this and creating QuantumThink, and she's been doing it her whole life, by the way, and although she didn't distinguish it, she's been doing it, and is that if thought creates reality, and all you had to do was change your thought to change your reality, how come the world looks the way that it does, right? We've advanced in the world of technology in amazing ways, from space travel to artificial intelligence to God knows what else. And we're really only on the beginning of it. In the next 10 years, it'll be miraculous what goes on. So we can see these amazing changes, these amazing things that are going on in the world of technology, but human beings, I don't know how much they've changed. They're pretty much the same. We are being as nasty to each other as we've ever been through centuries and millennia. We just go on treating each other, in many, many cases, very, very poorly and with total disrespect and really damaging and hurtfully and all kinds of things. So we as human beings haven't advanced as quick as the technology has. The technology is clearly in the quantum world, but human beings are still stuck in what we call the industrial age. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So Diane's putting it up on the screen right now. So the big question to be in, and which is what Diane had, was, okay, Diane, what are we doing here? The big question to be in is if thought creates reality, what is creating thinking? And this is the question to be in. And what we haven't seen is that we actually think in systems. We don't realize it. And so the systems that we are thinking in are shaping the way we think. And we have grown up in a system of thinking that was introduced maybe, I don't know, 300-400 years ago by Sir Isaac Newton and his buddies. And this is what scientists do. They study the nature of reality. They have ideas and theories, and then they go ahead and prove them. And once they prove them, they introduce them into society, and it finds its way into our language. Like, for example, Zoom. How long is Zoom? This, what we're looking at right now, Zoom didn't exist in this form, like 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. Zoom was a lens that we stuck on a camera. That's about as far as it went. Now we have Zoom. We have the idea that we live in a 24/7 world. We didn't use that term. We didn't use the term quantum leap. We didn't use the term texting. We didn't use so many terms that are now in our languages that we just totally take for granted. We don't talk about it. We just live in it. So I want to take a look now at this industrial age worldview, because this industrial age worldview is what shapes the way that we think. It's been here 400 years. It gave rise to the industrial age, the world of machines. And we've lived in it and for so long. Now, our job is not to get rid of it. We can't get rid of it. We're not. So the point here is to be able to distinguish it alongside the laws and principles of our quantum worldview. So if you can see the laws and principles of the old worldview and how they're shaping our thinking, and then you can also see, and you learn QuantumThink, you can begin to see how that how it could influence how our thinking is. So here we have this is the overarching distinction of QuantumThink. Old worldview, new worldview. These are the characteristics. These are actually not just even characteristics, they're laws. They are laws that this worldview set forth, how we think. We don't even give it much consideration at all. But quantum science has proven most of these ideas and theories and principles to be totally incorrect. They are not valid. They don't work. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So machine. So, the classical world, that was the industrial age. It gave birth to the machine. So we looked at a machine, and the thing about a machine is it works. Once you switch it on, it's totally on automatic. So many of our thoughts are really automatic. Once we've made a decision about something or a conclusion about somebody, we think about them in that way without giving it a second idea. So machine on one side, mind on the other. We don't usually examine at the thoughts. Are our thoughts, this is another discovery by Diane, is that we're not as much a discovery, but it's a discovery that we think we're thinking, that we're at choice with our thoughts, but we're not. We're actually not. We think we are. Now, don't be insulted by this. I'm saying that we're not. And the reason we're not is we can test it out right now. How many of you have had a absolutely nasty thought about somebody you love dearly? Whether it was a child, a child was misbehaving and you just wanted to flush them down the toilet, or there's something that your significant other or good friend is doing and you wish you could if only you could change them. And that you have nasty thoughts about them. So, I'm not even going to ask you to put your hand up on this because you're human and you've had them. Okay. So why in the world, if we were choosing our thoughts, why in the world would we be choosing an absolutely nasty thought about somebody we love? The answer is we wouldn't, because we're not choosing them. And this is really important because thoughts are coming through our minds all the time. And we're not relating to those thoughts as if they are just a thought. We are relating to them, and you can see this over here in the left-hand side here in the old world view. Like a thought is fixed and static. We look down there, matter is real. We see the world as separate parts, but we see things, we see ourselves. Oh, this is the way I am. Oh, that's the way they are. Oh, that's the way it is. This is the way my company is. We relate to things as if that's the way it is, like it's fixed and static. And in the quantum worldview, we see things as because it's an energy. In the quantum world is made up of energy, and energy is never standing still. It's always moving. So this is very, very important. So, but even though you are having a thought about yourself or about something in the world or whatever, it's not absolute. This is one of the tenets of QuantumThink, is that things are not absolute. Our thinking is not absolute. Because you're having a thought, that does not make it absolutely the truth. It may be true for you, even that's questionable, but it's still not the truth. And once you see that, then you can begin to look and say, wow, just because I'm having this thought, maybe they're not that way. Maybe that's just the way that I'm seeing them. And when you start to learn to QuantumThink, if you look further down, you'll see there's a point here where it says observer created reality, third from the bottom on the right. This is in quantum science, it's called the observer effect. And that means that what you bring to the observation, what is in your awareness, is shaping what you see. It's shaping what you, and it's going to shape, therefore, the actions you take, decisions that you make. That's how this works, is the observer effect. We call it, it's one of the distinctions of QuantumThink, it's called the observer created reality. And it's basically what you bring is what you get. In the old world view, if you can look across from there, you see objective reality. This is one of the principles and laws of Newtonian science, that there was a reality separate from us, outside of us, and that if we understood how it could work, we would be able to predict what it's going to do, and therefore we would be able to control it. Well, again, let me test this out on you. How many times have you tried to control your children or control your husband or your wife or your friend to get them to do what you want them to do? And if you tried that, you know, it didn't work. You may have bribed them, did everything, try to threaten them, whatever you did. It may have gone on, you may have got some traction for about a month, and then it went back to business as usual, right? Because you cannot control it. That's not how things work in the quantum world. We have no control actually over anything. If you start, it's kind of an illusion that we can control anything. So this is why the observer created reality is very, very important. And we're going to learn more about that in a minute, because it's going to be part of the exercise you do at the end, right? Now, so that's that one. And there are, I'm not going to go through all of these. You can take notes on it. You can look at it as I've been speaking. But the left-hand side is the old worldview, the classical mechanical worldview. As I say, we're not trying to change it. All we want to do is create a new relationship with it. And one of the relationships that we're creating with it is to first recognize this is not how things work. And when you learn QuantumThink, what happens is as soon as you catch yourself, like maybe in an either-or conversation, or like viewing something as fixed and solid, and that's the way it is, it's just the act of noticing it immediately shifts you into quantum thinking. You don't have to process anything. There's nothing you need to do, because this is the thing. We have two worldviews here. And when you can distinguish the limiting worldview for what it is, including not making yourself like a victim here or making yourself wrong if you say, oh, I had this terrible thought. Yeah, you did, but it wasn't, you didn't create that thought. So don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. This is the worldview, the system of thinking in that old worldview is shaping how you're thinking. Now, the other thing I also want to point out about systems. Systems are very, very powerful. Everything functions in systems. And this is what Diane determined, is that we think in a system. How did she come to that? Because she looked and she saw everything on the planet functions in a system. You look at the macro and the micro. You've got the planetary system. You've got the Earth system in its relationship to the moon and to the sun and what goes on. You have coming down to Earth. We have nature's systems. It all works very perfectly, by the way. There's nothing in there that doesn't belong in there. It's all working very harmonically. So then you come down into more systems. The system of we wouldn't even be here if there wasn't a system called the internet. We wouldn't be here. When you go shopping, when you go into a grocery store and you're looking, you think, okay, I'm going to go buy some cereal. You walk into the store, right? And the system carries you to where the cereal is. Right? And you go there, and then you've got all these different cereals. So you're not giving up free will here. You have the free will to choose any cereal you want, but the system guided you to where the cereal is. And that's how life is. You know, you couldn't drive your car if there wasn't a road system. You wouldn't have a house if there wasn't an architectural system. Everything works in systems. And what Diane discovered is we also think in systems. System thinking is a system. It's not one thought at a time that we're personally having. We're having thoughts, but those thoughts are not ours. They're visiting us from the thoughtosphere, which we lovingly call the thoughtosphere. And there's a difference between thoughts that are visiting and thoughts that you are consciously creating. And this is where the observer created reality comes in, because the intent that you bring to it, if it's consciously created, is going to alter how you see things. You're going to see things the way that you're creating them to be seen versus what the evidence in the world tells you. And this is very, very important. So that's one. And then the last distinction that I want to talk about now, and then Lisa and I are going to start having a conversation, is the distinction success to mastery. Success is we're all successful in some way, shape, or another, whether it's in business or family or just your general interests, hobbies, whatever interest you have in life. We all have lots of successes, but success is based in the past. And that is one of the characteristics of success. We see what we've done and we determine if we were successful at it or not. It's a past-based phenomenon. Mastery is something completely different. Mastery is a present moment phenomenon. It happens in the moment. If you can picture a martial arts expert or master, and and one of the things that they have had to do to become a master is they've had tremendous discipline, and they go 100% all the time. They have learned it, they study it, and they are disciplined in it. And they know every aspect of it that's to be known. So when they go into a tournament and they're facing off against somebody, they are not going into their memory to try to remember, oh, what's that thing? What's that successful approach that I had here to this? If they did that, they'd be on their back in an instant. That does not happen. You have to be in the moment. And so in this distinction of success to mastery, we're going to introduce a listening recreation. All of our distinctions have recreations. There's a listening recreation that's going to come with success to mastery, along with observer creator reality, 2 listening things that we're going to introduce you to at the end of our little chat here that I'm going to put you into. Well, no, actually, let me do it this way. This recreation for success to mastery is listening from not knowing. And so I'm going to ask you, as we go into this conversation with Lisa and myself, to notice if you're listening from not knowing, or whether can we just mute that person?
One of mine wants to trade it, and that child lost picking up to the third.
Oops. I couldn't tell who was doing it. Alan, I accidentally muted you. Could you unmute yourself, Alan?
It's May, Lisa. It was May.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you,
so,
Michelle.
Listening from not knowing. Okay. So now the thing here is when you're listening to us, notice if you have any judgments about what I'm saying. You may have had a few already. What the hell is he talking about? This doesn't even make sense. If those thoughts are going through your mind, that's what you're listening to, right? So just notice if you have a judgment, if you have a conclusion, if you're comparing what we're saying to something you already know, just notice it. If you're listening from trying to understand it, just notice it. Don't try to change it. Just notice it and go back to listening from not knowing. That's all. There's no change. You don't have anything to do here. All you'd have to do, this is about awareness. This is about conscious awareness. This is not a how-to. Okay, so you're going to become aware of any judgments or thoughts you're having as we're going through. And then, just as you notice that awareness, immediately move into consciously creating listening from not knowing and see what happens. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to move on here to Lisa. We're going to have a conversation for about 20 minutes, I think, or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. How will we go here, Lisa? So let's go for it. Tell me. So Lisa's going to ask me questions. I'll lead it up to you to set it up, Lisa.
All right. Well, one of the reasons I was so very excited to work with Alan and learn more about QuantumThink is for the last 7 years, as I've been running Crossing Party Lines, getting people together to talk about differences, I've been encouraging folks to listen with a curious, open mind. And that's helped a lot. But as I learned about this listening from not knowing, I started seeing how that adds a whole new dimension to the way we engage in conversations about politics or anything else in which we disagree. Alan, can you help us understand what's different about listening with not knowing and listening with an open, curious mind?
Yes. Listening with an open, curious mind is actually about us, because we're the ones bringing the open, curious mind, right? Now, listening from not knowing puts your attention on the speaker. as opposed to being curious yourself. Now, by the way, this is another part of the distinction. This is not an either or. This is a both and. So we're not saying give up your curious, interested mind. No, you can have that as well. But listening from not knowing, and I think this is so important because when you're speaking to somebody you're familiar with, well, you do know them, don't you? So, and it's very difficult to listen from not knowing to somebody that you speak to on a daily basis. I mean, it'd be okay, you know, if we were traveling in a country we'd never been before, the circumstances would be dictating the fact that we don't know, right? Because we were in a place we haven't been before. We're talking to people we've never met before. But we're now speaking here very powerfully about the people we know, the people we live with on a daily basis, the people we count on a daily basis. And when we go into meetings, you know, notice you've all been in meetings. How often do you go into a meeting where you're thinking, you know, you're looking around the room at the people there and you could predictably say how this one's going to behave. Oh, this one's going to be, you know, make some funny comments. This one's going to be quiet. This one's going to be argumentative. This one's going to be this one's going to be that, right? We have that predictable aspect. We know what they're going to do. And this is why I say, there's nothing fixed, right, Lisa? There's nothing fixed. So when you're listening from not knowing, the only way that you can listen from not knowing when you're speaking to somebody that's familiar is to do it consciously. There is no other way to do it because you do have a history with that person. You do know them. You've enjoyed being with them over, you know, months, years, or whatever it is. So you do know them. So the only way that you can actually start to listen from not knowing, it's really, really important. You cannot listen from not knowing unless you're approaching it consciously, with conscious awareness, which includes the awareness of when you're not listening from not knowing. Because only when you become aware that you're not listening from not knowing can you go back to listening from not knowing. It's a weird thing, but that's actually how it works. And then you will hear things that will surprise you about the people that you're so familiar with. You will hear things that they may have been saying for years that you didn't hear. And all of a sudden, it'll be there. And then the other part of listening from not knowing when you're in a conversation with somebody, this is a new moment. You have never been in this moment before, ever in your entire life. This is a new moment. So why would you want to treat it like it's like any other moment from the past? Treat it fresh. And that adds to the curiosity. That adds to the interest, right? How can you be curious about something you already know for a lifetime? There's not a lot of curiosity available there. So that would be something very important. Underscore listening from not knowing, conscious. Conscious can only be done consciously and recognizing this is a new moment. This moment has never been here before, and it will never be here again.
Thank you. That really helps. When I think about political conversations, and we create political conversations between people who don't know each other, and yet when you find out what their political position is, right, you often come to that conversation thinking, well, I know all I need to know about them. So it's different than talking to someone we know well, but because we think we know everything we need to know about them.
Exactly. I mean, that is so good. Absolutely, Lisa. I mean, I fall culprit to that. I could turn on the news, and as soon as I see a figure come up on the news, I've made a decision right there whether I'm going to listen to them or not, based on who they are. Right. And that is perfect, even for me. As I say, you know, I haven't got this thing mastered. You know, but it's the awareness that enables you to move beyond it. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in it.
Yeah.
Great question.
And it sounds as though you're saying that when you are listening from not knowing and you become more curious, that maybe two things might happen. I can imagine that, number one, they may say things they've said before, but you hear it differently. And number two, they may have the space to say things they've never shared with you before, or might not have intended to share with you when they entered that conversation.
That's true, and that really speaks to the other distinction the observer created reality, where you're listening with an intent. Now, and this is one of the unique parts of QuantumThink, one of the unique listening approaches to it that we wouldn't necessarily even consider, is that if you create for yourself, remember, the observer created reality is functions from intent. Intent always works, whether it's a conscious intent or it's a default intent. We are always functioning from some intent or another. The intent could be in the form of a conclusion you've made about somebody. It could be that way, or it could be a conscious intent. So intent's important. So the important aspect in what you're saying here, Lisa, is to be able to create an intent that the person that you're speaking with experiences being heard. And so the focus is now on them. And so when you're listening from the perspective of them being heard, not about you, not that you're going to become a better listener. Now it's about them. So, and when they experience being heard, they will say things that they weren't able to say to you before, which is to your question, Lisa. You know, people, when we don't see that we're actually boxing people in, when we have a judgment about somebody and we are relating to them through that judgment, you know, like their predictability, for example, if we're relating to them as if they're predictable, they feel that energy and they shut down. You know, because they know, you know, they can see the look on your face, they can see how your body looks, they can see there's an energy that's not there in the connection between people. And that when you're listening from not knowing, and you're operating also from an intent that they experience being heard, as soon as they experience being heard, it's going to open up. I mean, in the programs that we've done, Lisa, over the years, where we've had, you know, lots and lots of people participating, one of the things that really surfaced so quickly for people was the communications with their children. Because oftentimes, you know, parents driving their child home from school and they get into a conversation. How was your day? What did you do today? It was good. You know, what did you learn? No, you know, same old. So, you know, they give you those one-word responses when you ask them a question. They don't open up. Why? Because they feel that you are evaluating what they're going to say, and they shut down. So when all of a sudden, so this is one of the things that I observed in our programs, is that when the parent is really listening with an intent that the child gets heard, the child opens up. And they don't stop. They're like a water faucet. I mean, they just gush on them. I mean, it's amazing, but that literally happens all the time. And so the parent gets like, wow. And the important thing is to be able to see that how you were listening, that the way that you approached the listening had a direct influence on the communication of their child.
Yeah, Alan, I love this. I've been spending 7 years teaching people the skills of listening with a curious and open mind, but I see the power of adding that intent, so that in many ways that means you don't have to work so hard on the skills so much as really just being fully present, really bringing that intent to the conversation. Yeah,
absolutely. And let me just say something before I know you go into the next question. We in QuantumThink, we don't view listening as a skill.
Mm-hmm.
We see listening as a human faculty. It's like what we come in with it. You know, we're listening. Even if somebody, you know, unfortunately, if they were deaf, they couldn't actually hear. They have a listening. If their mind is functioning, they're listening. And the listening can come from many sources. It doesn't have to come verbally. It can come, you know, just from looking out the window and watching a bird go by. You just, that's it. It can come through anything in nature. It can come if you have a pet, if a dog, a cat, or a bird, or whatever. It happens there too. So, you know, it's good to sort of put aside the idea that we have to learn listening. We don't. We have to get in touch with our human faculty of listening. And these distinctions, you know, in listening that we're providing right now is an immediate access to that, immediate.
Yeah, that really takes away many layers of the work I've been doing and just strips it down to exactly what we need to take on, which is this new worldview. I love that. And I'm thinking too, Alan, about how this new way of seeing the world, this new system might relate to the other side of a political conversation, which is the talking. I know often people enter a political conversation wanting someone to think the way they do, to accept their views, and they want to win. And yet, what I'm hearing is if they enter the conversation with this intent, perhaps to have the other person care about the things they care about, or I mean, it sounds like the intent when we speak is really going to change the conversation from the other side as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's another distinction in QuantumThink, which we call transformation as distinct from change. And it's an important one because in the world of change, to change something, you always, if you've got a problem or something you don't want to, you want to get rid of it, you want to alter it in some way, and you want to change it, you have to keep the thing you want to change present, so it never goes away. Is another term, it's a more modern term, like what you put your attention on expands. So if you have your attention on trying to change something or get rid of something, the very thing you have your attention on is going to stay in place because you need it as a frame of reference to see how well you're doing changing it, which you're failing at. But transformation is a whole nother element where you're transcending the current form. You're not changing anything. You're seeing it from another view. And in the distinction, transformation is distinct from change. We have the recreation for there is like being in the right question. And one of the questions we pose, which would be a perfect one in the political realm, would be like, how can we have this work for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
But in the old worldview, you know, shapes us and moves us to thinking from either or. Either you're right or I'm right. Either it's my way or your way. And that, you know, we see that going on all the time. You know, it's like, and that's how we have our meetings sometimes. It's like, we're not going to, you know, I'm the boss and we're going to do it my way, you know, and we're not looking from how can we have it work for everybody? And in that question, things will emerge that you hadn't seen at the onset. If you're in an either or, you cannot see the other person's perspective. You just can't, because you're so, and there's another distinction. We have the perspective of all perspectives. And this is what I'm saying. They all fit together so beautifully. Like you can't hear somebody else's perspective if you're attached to your perspective. There's no way, right? You're not even listening to them because you can't wait for your turn to talk. So yes. So yeah, it does. The whole conversation can really have a shift in the dynamic, Lisa, when you're starting to quantum think it and you see, you know, and you're really consciously looking from, you know, having them be heard. When they experience it, they will start talking. You will be listening from not knowing. You're going to hear things you didn't hear before. And I can assure you the conversation is going to go to a place that is way outside of what was predictable. Way outside.
Yeah. Alan, as I've been really enjoying listening to the audio program. And one of the things that I find really mind-opening is that difference between intent and intention. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to share a bit more about that.
Yes, very good. I'm glad you brought that up. We tend to use those as if they're the same thing. You know, you'll hear people say, well, my intent was this, but, you know, but was I intentional? They use it like, you know, as if they're using the same thing. And this is why distinctions are very important, because each element has its own body of distinctions and they're all valid. And when you start to compare one with the other, when you make a comparison between intent and intentionality, or anything for that matter, you weaken both of them. And so intent is when we refer to intent, it's a field effect, meaning when you create an intent, you're entering into the world of infinite possibility of everything. and what attracts, whatever the energy, the frequency of the intent, because words have frequencies. They're not just bland, not, just a word. It's not. There's energy on the word. You can say I love you 100 different ways, and it's going to get you a whole 100 different things, right? There is an energy that is associated with all of it. So intent, what intent does, when you create an intent, it's spoken in the present tense as if it has already happened. The intent that, that I had for everybody here on this call today was is that everybody here experiences a new way of thinking that opens up new relationships with them in the relationships they already have. So that even great relationships can go. So I have an intent that you walk away here, that you all experience a new way of viewing the people in your life. Do I have the circumstances to prove that? No, but intent is not based on circumstances. Intent is not true or false. It's a context in which you live from. And when you create the intent, you're creating the experience as if it already exists. And therefore, if it already exists now, the chances of it existing tomorrow is very good. But if you create it as a future thing, then you set up a perpetual state of becoming, and you never really get there, not to the same degree. And when you create the intent from as if that has already happened, you start to attract in frequencies that are similar to it. And so the idea of intent, the intent could have many, many different outcomes, many different ways that it could be accomplished, which is distinct from intention. Intention is a course of action. Like we all had an intention to be on this call at 1 p.m. EDT today. That was an intention, right? And you're all here, right? And so the intention is more like a cause and effect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good. When we plan things, when we have an outcome that we want to accomplish, we want to make, $1 million this year, and we set up a plan to get there, that is in the realm of intention. But when we have an intent for an experience of the peace, harmony, and joy that we would have in the journey of reaching that $1 million, that is happening every moment. That way you get to experience the peace, harmony, and joy as you're going along, right? As distinct from a course of action. So, and both are valid and both are appropriate. And if you have both and you're using both, then you have the full power of each of them, as opposed to watering them down by collapsing them as if they're the same thing.
Oh, yeah. So that's what you were saying about we've got the two worldviews, and it's not an either or, it's a both and.
Right. Yeah. And actually, that's very important. I'm glad you brought that up, Lisa, because you cannot see a new worldview from an old worldview. Because it's because that in that worldview, you're seeing the world in parts. So it's like it's a limited paradigm, because it's not even accurate anymore. So if you're thinking from a limited source and you don't realize you're thinking from a limited source, everything you do will be limited by that. But you can, from a new worldview, you can include the old, because the new worldview sees the world in whole systems. Therefore, by virtue of that alone, it has to include the old. So the old is included in the new, but the new is not included in the old.
Wow, thank you. I think that also kind of clarifies for me why we're calling these things distinctions, because we're distinguishing the difference. That is old and this is new. I'm not going to say this correctly because you've been doing this for many, many years, and I've just been listening to the audio tapes for a while, but it's making sense now that it's about noticing, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's about noticing, but it's also the art. We have the methodology of QuantumThink we call the art of distinguishing. And basically what that means is we're not giving you something you don't already have. But in the conversation, as you learn QuantumThink, one of the things that will happen is it'll be like you have a house, and all of a sudden you discover there's a room in your house that you didn't even know existed. And it's like that. You'll learn something about yourself in a way that you'll see something that you may have seen before, but you didn't see it this will have you see it in a new way that will set you into action. Or you're going to see something that's always been there that you have never seen. And then as you see it, you recognize, oh my God, yes. I didn't notice that before. So QuantumThink's not about giving you something you don't already have. You got it all. Everything you need to live a fantastic, beautiful, harmonious, joyful life, you have it. But if you can distinguish in one side what might be in the way of it and not give it any meaning, because it's the meaning that trips us up. We have a thought and then we give it meaning, and then we live in the meaning as if that meaning is true. And it's not. We don't see we're the ones giving the meaning to it. So if we can just catch that, and when we catch it, automatically QuantumThink will kick in, and the appropriate distinction will kick in. And you'll start to see, if you catch yourself in an either or conversation, you just the act of catching it. If you know there's a both and, you immediately start inquiring into both and.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. This is wonderful. I could listen to you for days and days, but I think we were going to make some space for people to have their experience.
Yes. Let's do that. Okay, so listen, thank you all for, listening, giving us the power to do what we just did. Lisa, the questions were brilliant. I appreciate it, and giving me the opportunity to point out some things that I forgot to point out at the beginning. So I appreciate that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, a little exercise here. So remember that person whose name you wrote down right at the beginning? Somebody who you know and that you care about and you love, or that you're familiar with. Now, you can do it with this person, or you can do it with another person. We're going to take a few minutes. It's not a long time, but I want to see if you can do this. To either to call that person, to call them, or if you're in a room or a house or a place where that person may be hanging around, it could be a child, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be that person that you wrote down at the beginning, because I'll tell you, based on what we've done today, you're applying this, that person you wrote down, and you can write and tell me this, with the next time you have a conversation with them, it's going to be a different world. That's for sure. So whether you do the exercise with that person today or not, it doesn't matter. So just call somebody or talk to somebody, just take 5 minutes to do this. And then you're going to come back and share what happened. And then you can't do it wrong. I want you to go in there. I want you to think about the person you're calling or you're going to speak to, and with an intent that that person experiences being heard. Just hold that in your awareness, that person experiences being heard, and then get into a conversation. And then listen from not knowing. If you catch yourself judging or making conclusions, just notice it and go back to listening from not knowing. We're going to take 5 minutes. It's now 1:56. Let's come back here at 20. Let's come back at 2:05, right? No, it's 20. What would that be? Like 3 minutes after, just come back around, just after, as soon as you've done this, just come after you've done it, just come back, give yourself 5 minutes to do it, make the call, have a conversation, come back, and then we're going to continue on and answer any questions you have and have you share what happened when you did this. So don't worry about getting it right. Just do it. Okay, folks. Okay. Okay. Welcome back, Bob.
Hi.
And Bob, you've been exposed to QuantumThink quite a bit over the years. Are you hearing it in a different way today?
Well, it was such a good exercise for me because I have heard you introduce groups much the same way that you just did. But I was so glad that you introduced the exercise to really do the conscious listen from not knowing, because I did. I listened. I thought, I know exactly what Alan's going to say today. Come on. But there were things that I've heard you say before. I heard them in a different way, and they meant something different to me. Maybe different now versus what they would have, 5 years ago. And then there were also new things that I heard that maybe you've said before, but I didn't quite get it.
Right.
But now I do, or did. So it was an especially interesting exercise for me.
That's great. That's great, Bob. Yeah, that's good. Because you're a perfect example, because Bob and I have worked together over the years, in different settings. And he's heard me speak about this, and like listening from not knowing, you were able to hear things in a different way. Now, maybe I said it in a different way too. We're never going to know the answer to that one, but your listening was clearly different today than it would have been, just as a continuation of the past. Very good. Yeah.
Sure.
That's excellent. Okay, well, welcome back, folks. So you can take yourself off of mute. I'd love to hear from somebody who practiced this with somebody. Who did you talk to, and what did you hear from them, and what did you have? Any shifts take place? Who'd like to jump in? You can't do it wrong. If you did the exercise, let's hear from you. Don't worry about getting it right or wrong. Come on. Who had a go at this?
I'm just going to jump in and say.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. You're bold. I love it.
Lisa knows me and I would share, but I got a voice. They weren't there. I called them on the phone. so, I mean, and then so I just want to say I really tried, but I'll try again. I'll try again.
Do it again. Yeah, do it again. Yes, absolutely. You got a voicemail, but you know what? It's very interesting because as a professional coach and consultant, many times, Michelle, people have called me and I wasn't there, but somehow they picked up the energy, and I'll be curious to know how people heard your message. Did you leave a message?
Yes, I did.
I would be very curious. Love to hear how they heard your message, even.
I hadn't
even
thought
though they
of
weren't there.
Yeah.
Because QuantumThink is not linear. In the quantum world, energy moves backwards and forwards through time. It's not a one-directional thing. And so, we're not dealing in the physical universe here. We're dealing in a quantum universe. And, we can go, in the intuitive realm, we tune into people across the planet, right? You ever had a thought about somebody and they called you? Same thing.
I'll just also add, I say to myself every day, I am infinity, but you are helping me put skin on those bones. You're helping me, right? It's like, what does it mean and you're giving me those examples of how to practice being infinite. So thank you.
Excellent. Yes, you are infinite, no question. Okay, good. Thank you, Michelle, for jumping in there. Who else? Who wants to share what happened when you did this? Were you a guest, Corinne, please?
Yes. Well, I called a friend who I knew was going to the doctor today. And basically, when I asked how they were, they, in essence, talked the entire time. It wasn't a very long period, but to give an example, but I allowed for them to speak the entire time, and I think they were glad I followed up.
That's great. So did you feel that they actually experienced that you were listening to them deeply?
Oh, yes. Yes. They kept saying how happy they were that, the results of the appointment. And so it wasn't just factual, there was emotion behind it. And that's how I sensed that there was something different.
Good. Beautiful. Beautiful, Corinne. That's special. Yeah. I mean, and this is, you're in the energy realm here. Can you see that? You're in the energy field with this, Corinne. Right. That's beautiful. You don't have to say anything. They get it.
Alan, I did send you a question in the chat. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. It's a little bit beyond what we're talking about, but.
I thought was-
Okay,
yeah.
hold on to the question. I'll come back to the question. I will come back.
You want
I
me to
just-
Thank you.
come back to the, oh, let me know, Alan.
Yes, I
when you-
will. I will.
Okay.
Absolutely. Good. Who else? Who else had an experience? Yes, Candice.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
I'm in a time zone where my kids are back from school already.
Oh, good.
And so I called I called my daughter downstairs. She's upstairs doing her homework, and she has difficulties with speech and fluency, and she's been in speech therapy, in and out of speech therapy for a lot of her life. And there's been a lot of frustration on my end with that. So I think I do go into a lot of conversations expecting to be frustrated by her when she's trying to explain things for me. I asked her about some things that are going on in school, a test that she's preparing for. And when she first started explaining it to me, I think she just like kind of went into her old pattern and kind of moved her body a lot, and I could feel her tension. And then after about like 15 seconds, she just so clearly explained to me what it is that she's struggling with and what she needs to do in order to be ready in 2 weeks. And that was amazing. So thank you.
That's what we call a transformation. You didn't have to do anything. Basically, all you were doing was listening, right? Right. Yeah, right. That's fabulous, Candice. And that is such a beautiful example. And you know what? That will transform your relationship with your daughter for here on out forever. That's not a one-shot deal here. I just want you to get that's beautiful. Very nicely done, Candice. Thanks for playing. Great. Anybody else? Who else wants to give us a go here? Yes, Karen.
I called 5 people.
5?
Yes. My 2 daughters had a voicemail. And then my roommate had a voicemail, but the 5th one was a very good friend of mine, whom I love. And he's a old friend of mine from high school. And he actually, the reason I called him is because he said I didn't listen. So I called him to tell him that I was in kind of a little seminar about listening. I said that on his voicemail. I'm sure he will be very happy to get back to me.
Oh, you told him this in a message?
Yes, I said, David, I'm in a little seminar about listening, and I know you said I don't listen well, so hopefully I'll be a better listener. Please call me back.
That's great, Karen. That's
That
thanks.
should be good.
That's beautiful. And you pick somebody that you have a listening thing with. I love it.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, good. And again, like I was saying, to Michelle, I think, the message, the energy in the message was different than it would have ordinarily have been. Do you have a sense of that, Karen?
I totally do. Yes, totally.
Good. Excellent. Beautiful. Good. Okay. Somebody else who called somebody and was able to talk to anybody? Somebody? Anybody want to play here? Okay.
Hey, long time no see.
Okay,
Alan.
Ken. Hang on 1 second. Oh, Ken, go ahead. Go ahead. Ken.
Karen can go first. That's okay.
Who was that?
I
Karen's
thought
also-
Karen wanted to go. No?
Hey, yeah, I'm on as well. Alan, long time no see.
Yes, Karen. Hey, Karen.
Hey.
Oh, wow.
Coming to you from Dayton, Ohio still.
Yes,
Hey, great to see you both.
you
and
too. You
hear
too.
you. Hey, I actually reached out to my sister-in-law. We lost my brother, his wife, in January. And she and I had been playing tag for the last few weeks. And I just picked up the phone and said, hey, Ellen, how are you doing? What's going on? How are you feeling? And then just let her share what's going on. And then it culminated in, hey, I need to get away from here. I'm coming to see you Friday. So, so she definitely needed something. And, and again, just being able to let her outpour that, hey, it's, hard to see objects that my brother, had around their house. It's, all of those things that you get with the grieving process. She just wanted to let loose on how she's doing. So it was really, really neat. And she's not one normally to share. So just giving her that opportunity made a difference today. And now I've got a visitor for the weekend.
That's beautiful. And did you feel that they felt that connection, Karen?
I think so. She definitely, I think, feels more connected to the family. She's a single only child, so we're a family of 5. So I think she's always felt kind of out of place in among this group of very outgoing individuals, my family. So I think she felt included just by not even I didn't say anything. I just listened.
Right.
So I think she feels included, and I think she felt welcome, because I don't think she would have said, "Hey, I'm coming to I need a visit."
Right, beautiful.
I don't think she would have done that unless she felt like she could come and
That's fabulous.
be present with us for 3 days. So
Beautiful,
anyway,
Ken.
so thanks
Nice
for
of
having
her.
me reach out to her.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. Good work. All right, Ken, go ahead.
I called my girlfriend Elizabeth, and I definitely could feel she was being heard. What I did witness as well was myself speaking with a lot more clarity and presence.
Beautiful, beautiful. Right. And it's just all you would do, and just this, all from today. It's like because you came into the conversation with her, Ken, with conscious awareness. And when you're in a conversation with conscious awareness, it's always going to be clearer, because it's not like you're just on automatic. Can you tell the difference between the automatic way you would talk to her and how you talk to her to just now?
Yes.
Very good. Excellent. Beautiful. Good work, Ken. Very good. Okay, doing good. Now, I think Mel had a question. Did Mel have a question? You have a question there from Mel or somebody else? Anybody? I saw something come up. Yes, go, Murphy. Go ahead.
It's with respect to the distinction that you were saying between intent and intention.
Yes.
So if I got it right, and to put it in my words, if I understood, is that the intent is constant awareness of the things that you are doing, and the intention is when you are just getting and are up to the result.
Yes. Yes. Intent. Yes. Intent is, there could be many results when you create an intent. And there's a distinction in QuantumThink called allowing. When you start to learn allowing, you begin to see all the things that are coming into your field, Murphy, and you begin to make the connection between what you're seeing and the intent. So instead of making connections between what we see in the world and the circumstances that surround it, you're now making the connection between what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling. You're seeing it in the context of your intent versus the circumstances. Does this make sense, Murphy?
Yes, at the end, you are looking for your desired results in the other one, and the other one, you're just flowing and getting to see what can be the best suitable thing according to what you are feeling at the end. So you are flowing instead of being fixed to a desired result that gets you anywhere or nowhere.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. You got it, Murphy. Good.
Thank you.
Good. I know we're actually on time, but was there anything else? Was there any questions? I'll stay with this for a few more minutes if I can, Lisa, to answer any questions that happen to be in the chat or anybody else has. I'll be more than happy to do that. Anybody else?
I'd like to ask a question.
Bill, go ahead, Bill. Yep.
You drew a few distinctions, like, for example, between old view and new view, or old worldview and new worldview. And just a minute ago, you drew a distinction where you gave like half the distinction, but not the other half. So the half you gave was allowing. So I'm wondering what the other half of the distinction is.
Well, there's no half, actually. Remember, we're dealing in wholes. Allowing is one of the distinctions of QuantumThink that we didn't get into here. But allowing, actually, now that you do bring it up, is we say that intent is the active principle of creation, and allowing is the passive principle of creation. So when you're creating an intent, you're opening the field for what's going to come in that resonates with that intent. And then when you're in the state of allowing, you're making the connection between what you're seeing and what you're hearing. You're relating it back to the intent. That would be the other side of it. Did you get that, Bill?
So the distinction is between passive and active?
Well, no, it's not a distinction between things. Each distinction is its own distinction. So this is different. In the ordinary world, we make distinctions between things. But in QuantumThink, we distinguish what's present in a way that it would be new for you, or you'd be brand new, like you hadn't seen it before, or you would be or something you knew, but you're seeing it in a way you haven't seen it before. That's how we use distinction. So it's not a distinction between this and that. It's delving into the world of distinction, distinguishing more about the thing you're actually looking at, the qualities of it. I say it like this.
Sounds like layers.
Yes,
Like getting to a deeper layer of something.
That would be another way to do it. I say, like Tiger Woods, for example, he has more distinctions in the game of golf than anybody alive. Right? Because of who he is. I mean, that's, you know, an example. But anyway, you got it, Bill. You got it. You got it. Yeah, very good. Was there anybody else? Was there any other questions in the chat that I wanted to
I had one, Alan, and it just came out of the differentiation between old world and new world. And given that there's so much now about AI and its influence on society and ourselves, my question was how would you characterize AI, quote unquote, thinking?
Well, this is a subject matter.
Alan, excuse me. I did want to answer. I did answer Corinne on that. So
this is an area that is very dear to our heart, because of all the stuff that's going on with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and all the concerns that are out there for the ethics and the morality of it, that it's being spoken about in depth, even Elon Musk and all that. We believe, and this is one of our journeys right now, is to actually speak to some of the developers of AI to get QuantumThink embedded in it. And then when there's an issue, could even ask it, hey, how would QuantumThink deal with this? Because I've tried this, and believe me, I've seen some amazing things come through ChatGPT as it relates to QuantumThink.
I answered it in the chat, Alan. May I share that answer? Because I thought it was a great question that Corinne asked, like, how would you characterize how AI thinks? And my reply is AI definitely listens from knowing because it's based on existing data. So AI is processing information. It's not actually thinking.
Right.
Thinking is a conscious act.
Right.
That we could say is a more creative act, is a creation act, whereas AI is just a reorganizing, a response to information and reorganizing it.
Yeah, very good, Diane. Excellent. Okay,
or perhaps it listens from thinks it knows.
Right. Right. Yes. Okay, good. Is there any other questions? Anything else as we're winding this thing down now? Anybody have anything they want to say? Okay. All right.
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
Is AI processing information, as Dion said, and then what's the opposite would be creating? Or
it's not creating.
What's the opposite of AI?
Not knowing.
Not knowing.
That's my guess.
Is that right?
Well, we're in a field here. It's a little different. It's a little, let's not go into AI too much. That's another conversation that we'd be more than happy to have.
Would you like me to, Lisa and Alan, share the screen so that?
Yes, please. We have, yes, we're going to share. In concluding, we've got some things that you can tap into with Peace, Harmony, and Joy. We can get access to the book there, and also with Crossing Party Lines with Lisa, and also with QuantumThink. So here we go. So you can learn more about Peace, Harmony, and Joy Alliance. This is the website. Visit it. There's a lot of great information there, and you can learn a lot of things and see how you would like to participate in the Peace, Harmony, and Joy approach. Which, by the way, the mission of it is awaken peace, harmony, and joy for people within themselves, with others, and with the world through sharing, connecting, and facilitating. And that's what we did today. We shared, we connected, and we facilitated. So that's that one. And then to learn more, something you want to say about that, Lisa?
Yeah, I just want to encourage people to check out what we're doing. For the longest time, I've been saying we build community across difference, we build tolerance, and do so by engaging in conversations with a curious, open mind. And I look forward to seeing how we incorporate more and more of the QuantumThink ideas into what we're doing. I look forward to hearing from some of you with your thoughts about how to do that. And anytime you're interested, visit us at crossingpartylines.com.
Beautiful.
Right.
Thank you, Lisa. Good. Okay, and here we have the QuantumThink. So picture of Diane and I. You can go to our website, quantumthink.net. And there's a link there, and you can. There's a free audio introduction there. It's about 28 minutes long. Given the conversation that we've had today, I think you'll find that extremely valuable, and there's lots to learn there. It goes deeper into what we've been talking about here. There's a quiz. You can take the quiz. You can determine what your QuantumThink quotient is, and then of course there's Diane's book, which is a 10-time award-winning best-selling book. That's called "Do You Quantum Think? Think New Thinking That Will Rock Your World," and you can get that on on the hard copy. You can get it on Kindle, and you can also get it on audio. And so it's available to in all wherever you go. So with all that, so Diane, take that off. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you for all the conversations and for the brilliant things that you've shared. And so obviously we had a couple of some serious transformations here today that are very potent. And when you go about, look, the person you wrote down, that name right at the beginning, that's the one you want to get to next. Okay, call them, right, to get on the phone with them and speak to them with an intent that they experience being heard, and then listen from not knowing and experience the shifts that you've heard here today on this call for yourself. So have fun with this and contact us any way you want. We're here to support you. We just want to, introduce QuantumThink, and have it play out and bringing about peace, harmony, and joy in the lives of people in their relationships. With that, thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here, and Bob for making it possible, which you did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And yes, Ken, once we've taken the video down, we'll post it somewhere, send you the link to it, because I know it'll be so worthwhile to be able to listen again. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, just curious to listen more. I a lot of this, it's interesting how it overlaps some things I've studied for years in spiritual psychology, but it's very, actually the first two skills we learn is seeing the loving essence in ourselves and others, and heart-centered listening. So anyway, but this is interesting. I love the context of this too. So
thank you
guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.